Hello, everyone. I am Nadia, and I am the creator of Embody. And I'm just shooting this little video today to talk to you about just some key things to keep in mind when you are space holding for Embody as someone in the crowd, right? Not as the teacher. Still such an important role to take on. So I really want to talk about, well, first of all, I just want to thank you for doing this, and I want to talk a little bit about how to embody your role as a space holder, how to spot someone in sort of a shutdown or trauma response, and then once you do spot someone, what you could possibly do for them in a way that is trauma sensitive and um, optimizes their trauma release while still keeping them safe. Okay, here we go. So you are the space holder. What does that mean? So the most important thing as a space holder, even if no one needs your help, is to show up in the energy of space holding. That can look like a few different ways. I'm going to sort of offer a few different ways in which you can imagine this, and just choose the one that resonates the most with you and sort of work with that. So really, the way you want to imagine space holding is very much being sort of loving, wide energy. So if you imagine your own love being a color, imagine it sort of shooting out of your heart, but instead of it shooting like just like this, like a spotlight, imagine, like, when you sort of open, this is sort of a film analogy, but when there's a way to open the lights on a film set so that it goes really wide, right, instead of just spotlighty. So you really want to imagine all of your love, all of your attention going as wide as possible into the room, right? So if you're holding a really big crowd, this is so important. You want to start off all around the room. So depending on how many you are and how many people are within the actual class, you really want to start off and as much as possible return to being on the outside. This is really so that it's this energy of encompassing, of holding, of supporting the people within who are having an experience. Now, you can think of it a little bit like masculine and feminine energy, or some people prefer the terms alpha, omega. But essentially, the alpha or masculine energy is that of which is the container it is holding. So that's you guys, the space holders. And the attendees are in the experience. They're going on an emotional roller coaster here. They're emoting, they're expressing. That's a very feminine or omega sort of energy. And so you can also think of it as structure and flow if you resonate more with that. And you guys are the structure and they are in flow, right? So, so you want to really start off by, on a formation level, geographically in the room, being the structure, being the container. And then you individually also want to widen your energy, your breath, your attention, and your love as much as you can from spotlighty to really out, okay? Another way to imagine this is sort of like a bird with wings, that's coming to envelop someone. Or you can think of it as like loving mountain energy, like you are super like long spine, but reaching out and around the room, like you're giving them a big hug, just energetically. So that's with regards to who and what you really want to embody as space holders, where you want to stand physically in the room, unless you are specifically helping an individual, which is what we're going to get to next. So how to spot someone in shutdown or trauma response. So with Embody, based on my experience, the primary things that tend to happen is if things start to get a little loud, you sometimes will find someone who's like, has their hands on their ears. You may find people like completely contracted and hiding in a corner, or just coming to the floor and like balling up. You might see someone just sort of standing, but you can sort of just tell from their eyes that they have left their body, right? Oftentimes trauma response is one of like, it's sort of, I learned this from a colleague of mine who's a trauma educator, Rachel Maddox. It's in and out, in and up and out, right? And so oftentimes what happens if something feels overwhelming, overstimulating for someone's nervous system, and they aren't able to, or they're not used to moving through it, and they just go up and out of their body. And so they may look like deer in headlights, or they're sort of just like staring out into space, not moving. The key is to really notice, are they moving? Are they super contracted? Are they just feel like they're sort of a deer in headlights? Like, that's the way to start to, you know, find someone in the crowd who's like that. Also, of course, the other option is someone might wave you over. Like, they might just feel overwhelmed and they might wave you over, which of course is the other type of respond. Like, you want to be able to respond to either the people are waving you over, or you also want to be scanning the room, because sometimes when people dissociate, they aren't evil. They're not even able to ask for help. You know what I mean? So those are sort of the key ones. Someone not breathing is also really important, right? Okay, so what happens once you spot someone? This is the key piece to this video today, is like, once you spot someone, what do you do? So obviously you walk over to them. Here's the key. I want to say this before we actually go into what things you can do when you spot someone. If someone is just crying, but they're still moving, if someone is shaking, if someone is, as long as there's like motion happening in the body, and I don't mean shaking like they're in a ball shaking and like you can tell that they're like really not okay. I'm talking like they're shaking, they're moving it out, but they might be like wailing and crying. That actually means Embody is working, and they're having a beautiful cathartic moment. They're actually releasing their pent-up energy, or their trauma response, their trauma. You know, I don't want to get too much into a lesson about like trauma and what that actually is, and all the theories behind it, but essentially it's, you know, stagnant energy in your body from previous, you know, incidences that you've repressed that still are in your muscles. And so sometimes with Embody or any sort of movement, we are able to start to move that pent up energy that's been around for quite a while, that oftentimes causes anxiety attacks or panic attacks or depression or any of those things. We're able to move them out of the body. And so just know that as long as they're moving and expressing, that actually means the class is going beautifully, and there's nothing you need to do. Because I think, you know, oftentimes we have this response where we want to fix someone, or if they are crying, we want to go make sure that they're okay. If they're just crying but they're still moving, they are in the perfect place to be. It's only if they're crying and they're not moving and you see them disassociating that you may want to walk over. So you walk over. The key thing is, do not touch them. If you need to go into one of the options that I'm about to go through where there might be touch involved, of course, always make sure you ask permission first. But generally, I say this because our inclination oftentimes is to go and like hug someone or put our hands on their thighs, and, you know, it comes from a really loving place. But oftentimes the actual physical touch, like your physical touch on someone's body, may calm them, right? It also may trigger a different trauma response, but it may calm them, but that actually stops their body from the process of releasing trauma that they are going through. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to walk up towards them. Try, if you can, to make eye contact. If for some reason they're huddled in a ball and like they're absolutely impossible to make eye contact with, then you may just want to like, you know, make sure they can feel like your feet coming close, or there's some sort of sensory perception of them noticing someone's coming up. And then you can just whisper, you know, near them. Don't scare them, but just like near them, you can just whisper, you know, hey, I'm about to do this, or hey, are you okay? Or hey, do you want to breathe together, right? Depending on what intuitively comes. But just make sure that you are signaling to them that someone is approaching, so that there isn't yet another trauma response. And then there's a few different things that you can do. You can do what we call box breath. So you can let them know that they can breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, right? It's a very simple, there's many different breathing techniques out there with all these different numbers. This one, I just want to teach you guys because it's the easiest one to remember, you know, because it's like a box. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And just let them do that for a few minutes. And perhaps, you can also ask them, do you need to, leave the space and we can breathe together? Maybe they just need to breathe, depending on how loud the music is at that point. It might be better to exit the space, especially if it's a really big crowd. Or you might just want to stay right there next to them if they're feeling like they can't get up yet or they're still feeling disoriented. Another thing that you can do is you can actually sit down next to them and you can say, hey, I'm going to lean my shoulder on your shoulder. Is that okay for you? Or would you like me to lean my shoulder on yours? And if they say yes, okay, obviously you do that. And then you can encourage them to lean even further onto you so that they really just let their weight go. This is a great way to ground them because they feel like something against them, but it's also, they feel supported. They're able to tap back into their breath and so on. Another thing that you can do if you really feel like there's a lot of up and out energy and you've tried a few of these, you've already like worked with them for a little bit and they're just like not in their bodies and you can just tell like they're not here. They're just off somewhere in the clouds. A great thing that you can do, and again, you want to ask them beforehand, is say, can I place my hands on your feet? And whether they're standing or sitting, you literally just take your palms and you put them on their, the tops of their feet, and you just press down. And you say, breathe into your feet. This is a great way for them to bring their energy back to the lower half of their body because most probably their energy went up and out. You can also cue, just for them to breathe into, their legs, either while you do that as well or without touching them if they don't want to be touched. And cue, connect to gravity. Can you feel gravity on your feet? Can you feel the earth under your feet? Again, you want to limit the words if you're in the space, but if you've now taken them out of the space because they're really not feeling okay and they're overwhelmed, which again can happen when there's so many people in the room, then of course you can walk them through all of that. Okay, and then the other one that you can just do is just look at them even in the crowd. If music's loud, just lock eyes if that works, and just start to breathe deeper as you look at them. Start to breathe deeper, like you're just signaling non-verbally, I'm here with you. You may breathe deeper and then slowly walk up closer to them and be like, are you okay with me continuing to breathe with you, right? And that again is like, it's a very specific scenario. It depends on like exactly what's going on with them, and you have to like intuitively feel this out to a certain extent. But I just wanted to give you a few tools on what you can do when you see someone sort of disassociating or overwhelmed. You can always offer to them, hey, would you like to leave the room? I can walk out with you. Do you want to breathe together outside? Do you want to breathe together here, right? These are all options that you can give them. And then, you just want to stay with them until you feel they're back in a place where their breath is steady. They feel like they're in the lower half of their bodies at least a little bit. You can even ask them, hey, are you feeling okay to continue this experience? Maybe they won't and they just want to sit aside for the rest of the class. That's cool too. But just check in on them before you leave them. And then make your way back. So the key is you only want to be around them until they're back in their bodies. They don't have to be happy. They don't have to be like have life figured out, right? Like it's literally just, you just want to bring them back into their bodies and keep them on their experience. So ideally something like this could be something as short as 30 seconds where you're just breathing with someone or leaning into their shoulder. Or it might be something, if it's a very extreme trauma response, where you take them out of the room. You might have to work with them for 5 minutes. And then, you make sure that they're okay. You ask them if they're okay to be on their own, and then you make your way back in. But you don't want to stay with them till the end of class because, especially if you're a limited number of space holders and there's a lot of people, there might be someone else who needs you. So that's really what I got. So in conclusion, to recap everything I just talked about, as a space holder, think big, wide, open mountain energy, and you're around the space to spot someone, anyone who's sort of in and up and out in their energy, deer in headlights, sort of crunched up, contracted, not moving, not breathing. Pupils are like this. You can just tell that they're freaking out, right? Like that's sort of an example. And then once you get to them, you can either work with shoulder to shoulder, box breath, 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4. Breathing, just looking at each other. Okay. Putting your hands on their feet to ground them and cueing them to breathe in the lower half of their body and letting gravity, like letting them really connect back with gravity. Always ask for permission to touch them. As much as you can do things without touch, the better, unless it's the shoulder or the feet, when it's needed. If at the end they ask for like a hug, you can give it, but really that is not part of it's. We're not here to hug them physically. Like you might hug them with your energy in the room, but you're only here to ground them, to bring that back into their body, back to their breath, back into movement. One of my mentors, Sheila Kelly, always says, energy will move through actual movement, breath, tears, and I always forget one out of these four. Hold on. We said movement, breath, tears, and sound. So if they're doing those four things, they're generally in good shape and they're having the perfect experience. It is only if they've stopped breathing, stopped moving. Sound is not, not everyone makes sound, so that's okay. And not everyone cries. But if they're not moving and they're not breathing, chances are they're disassociated, and you may want to just head over. And sometimes it's takes a few steps. So you might notice someone. You might not be 100% sure where they are in their experience. You might just start to walk over and get closer to them and just shine your energy there and just watch them a little bit closer. If you continue to notice, okay, looks like something's going on over there, you can come up closer and just check in and just be like, do you need some help, or are you okay? Would you like to breathe together, right? And then from there, like just baby steps. And then they might be like, right, like I need help. And then you can be like, okay, is it okay if I put my hand on your thigh or on your feet? Is it okay if we breathe together? Is it okay if I put my shoulder to shoulder, right? So you guys get the gist here. That's it. It's not too complicated. Trust your intuition. Continue to shine out that energy. That is the most important piece. And I, again, just want to extend my deep, deep gratitude for holding that space for people to have such a beautiful, transformative experience. Your energy and your contribution here is huge. Don't underestimate it. And so I appreciate you. Thank you.